Hello and welcome to the new video. This time I took my Arakali Fang from 3.22 and I gave it a new spin, as this was like one of the starter builds that I wanted to start. Originally I started with the Winter Brand and it was going quite well until I got the red maps and the damage and the defense just went down to the toilet. So I'm like, oh, you know what, I had a backup plan because I wanted to play Arakali Fang, and that's what you see, and that's why the build guys is actually happening. I mean, I didn't change pretty much not too much, or like I did very minor changes from the last time that I was playing the Arakali Fang. I'm still sticking to the Occultist because I think it's like one of the greatest, or even in my opinion is better than Necro, even if I really like the new Necro node for the life leech for the minions. I'm very tempted to like play around with that because probably that would increase the defense, but nonetheless the Occultist explosion, additional cures, the whole quality of the Occultist is just fantastic. That's what I like about the Occultist. In the video description you're gonna find two POBs. The first one is gonna be the one that you see me playing the build on the screen. So you're gonna see a Squire and like Enlightened level 3, like some kinda expensive items nonetheless. But the second POB is gonna be more budget friendly. That's what I started on this league, and I worked my way up to the Squire and Enlightened level 3 and other expensive items that the build required. Now, probably now at this point there's gonna be a bunch of questions in the comment section, because people, instead of like listen to what I say in the video, they're just gonna grab the POB and move on. So let's fire away. Is this build cheap? I would say no. Simply just the Squire cost more than 24 divines at the time of the recording, so that's like a very expensive item. And yes, you can start this build cheaper, that's why you have the cheaper POB, but just remember the cheaper POB has about 4 times or even 5 times less damage, so you can still farm the T60 maps even on the cheaper POB, but it's gonna be much slower. Not only that, you're gonna be very heavily relying on the Occultist explosions to kill the whole packs of monsters. And so now another thing, can you league start with this build? I would say no. You have to start as a Summon Raging Spirit. I would say that's still good until you can afford the Arakali Fang, or maybe your guildmate or maybe your friends can buy you the Dodger, because at this point of the league is pretty much the Dodger costs about 45C, so it's not that expensive. I would say it's dirty cheap at this point. Another thing you might be wondering, what kind of content did I do with the build? Generally I'm pushing all of the challenges, or as much as I can. So I'm unlocking my slots, such as you have to do Cortex, you have to do Shaper and so on, and to unlock your slots. That what you're gonna see in the later down the line in the timestamps in the videos when I'm killing the Shaper and other bosses and invitation. I still have to do a couple more invitation to unlock the extra points for the Atlas, but I'm pretty much halfway there, I would say. So let's say you watch the full video and you're still hesitating, or like, should you commit into the Arakali Fang playstyle? Think about like this. Let's just say this is gonna be your first time playing. Give it a try. I don't think you're gonna regret, as this the whole playstyle, the whole package of the build is quite good. And in the end, even if you get yourself the Squire and everything like that, and you still don't like it, you can respec the Occultist in something else, because having like a witch, the Occultist, Elementalist, Necromancer is a very versatile Ascendancy class, so you can respec that in something else. That's what I'm gonna be doing later down the line. Once I get more and more currency, I want to go to my favorite playstyle, Custom Crit. But just to get there, I need a decent build that will allow me to do a bunch of different content which I'm saying, you know, going into that, oh, I cannot do blights because I don't have a good blighted character. I cannot do fast alpha farming because I want to corrupt some items. So that's why I'd really like the Arakali Fang build, because overall package is very good because you can do all of the content. You're not gonna be the greatest bosser, you're not gonna be the greatest mapper, but you're like a very I would say well-rounded build, because you have like a decent defense, but you don't have the greatest defense. We're not talking about hey, he's like a shaper beam going tank it. No, I'm not talking about that. But you're not gonna be just, you know, getting some kind of random one shot from the off screen and you're just gonna be wondering why what happened over here. You know, you have some block, you have some armor, you have the resistance, you have the extra resistance from the brass dome. So, you know, the build overall is, you know, relatively tanky. You have your enduring cry and so on, and you have the poison playstyle as well with the spiders. So you're not like, you know, constantly in the boss's face, taking the damage and tanking it, because the minions are, you know, doing your work. So overall, this is a solid build. If you never played Arakali Fang, give it a try. That's what I would say. Right, so in this section of the video, I'm going to explain you how Arakali Fang work from the basics. If you're someone who is more like you already played Arakali Fang or you're like an advanced user, most likely you can skip this part and move on to the next one. But if you're like a newer player or you're not like, you know, too advanced with Arakali Fang, I would advise you to listen what I'm gonna say, because everything's just gonna make sense after you listen to this quick explanation. Right, so to even think about Arakali Fang, you need two items, the bare minimum. You need Arakali Fang and the Corpse Walker. And what's gonna happen on start of every single map or any new location that you wanna, you know, kill some kind of boss, some kind of monster, maps, whatever might be the case, right? You need to have corpses. So that's why you want to walk around a little bit to generate corpses. As you can see, there's a couple of corpses over here. So you want to do like a small nifty dance over here. There's a bunch of corpses. So what you want to do right now, you want to hold your Divine Ire, you want to press a Worm Flask, and I got 20 spiders. So now what's gonna happen, I want to quickly spam as much as I can my Whirling Blade and Frostblink to move and just, you know, kill the enemies, get nice explosions, and, you know, everything looks nice. If you look on the corner of here, the spiders are getting a refreshment, let's call it like that, every single time when you kill something. And here comes like a tricky part, because if a spider kills an enemy while that enemy was just died from the poison, not from the occultist explosion, just from the poison, what the game tells you is that me as a character, I killed that enemy, not my spider. And so what's happened in this situation, that the game tells you that I killed the enemy, and that triggers the spider. So as long as you're moving and the spider kills a poison enemy, you have a constant loop of monsters dying to your poison, and you can just resummon them constantly, like on and on and on. The tricky part comes in when the Occultist Profane Bloom explodes way too many monsters for you to get like the proc of the poison, and then you might run out of the spiders. That's the reason why I have 2 flasks for the worms. And what you have to do, you just have to go back to the beginning of the video. What means you just do a quick dance, you do Divine Ire, worms, and then you have your spiders, and you wanna move on. As long as you're moving and you're killing, you shouldn't be running out of the spiders. But occasionally this will happen for some reason, because, you know, things happen. So you do a dance, Divine Ire, Worm Flask, then we have the spiders. And you're just gonna be doing that on repeat all the time.
amount of my might. Twin terrors. Be healed and fight on. And this. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Be healed and fight on! The most of my heart. Life is so brutal. Be healed and fight on! Twin terrors! A glorious spectacle. Well,
with your death, this nightmare finally ends.
don't resist my entropy.
I'm better. Mighty One, save me from.
Let the blood dance begin. Grasp your mortality tightly. A veil of safety and security. An agenda? Twin terrors. Handle this.
I'm faster.
Resist the assault.
You're in my sight.
A veil of safety and security. Resist the assault. Tight terrors. Grasp your mortality tightly. The void takes its chill. Grasp your mortality tightly. With the effort.
You are nothing. Everlasting fire. These memories are mine. I cannot lose them.
They lied to you, Father. I'm your...
Tight tethers.
To save the future, the past must be sacrificed.
Grasp your mortality tightly.
We need to close this.
The void protects its children. Resist the assault. Struggle or strangle.
Stay close.
Grasp your mortality tightly. Grip of the infinite. The void protects its children.
So this is a quick clip when I was still progressing my Atlas and I couldn't afford the Squire and I was on the budget POB. So you can see how the budget POB compares to a quest boss, because this is one of the quest bosses that you have to kill to get one of your first Void Stones. So you can see how the build performs and how is it plays. I would say it's fairly good as long as you know the boss mechanic and can dodge a couple of the things. The spider is gonna do most of the job for you, so I would say it's fairly easy.
Be gone! How impotent.
For the bandit points, you're gonna be killing all of the 3 bandits and gaining 2 passive points. The major god for the Pantheon chest we're gonna be picking up is Soul of Breaking. It's simply for the stun immunity, otherwise you're gonna get chain stun and you're gonna get killed. Do you need to fully unlock the Pantheon? Absolutely not. As long as you just have the Breaking, that's pretty much it, because we're still running Purity of Elements, so the chill and the frozen do nothing to us. The block recovery is nice, so that's pretty much the only upgrade that you should do, but you can unlock fully the ranking, because why not? And for the minor god, you're gonna be using your Slata, because you need the flask charges, as the worms are classified as a life flask, and you need that, especially one of the bosses when you're gonna run out of the spiders, so you can quickly summon them. So I would say them two are mandatory no matter what. So your Ascendancy choice should go Normal, Cruel, Merciless, Eternal. So firstly I'm just gonna highlight you some bits and pieces like the nodes and the masteries, and after that I'm just gonna tell you when you might find some troubles on the cluster jewels, because they have a little bit stats over there, and other bits and pieces. So stay tuned after the highlights of the masteries and the nodes. So if you're going to be replicating the passive tree, it looks very simple because there's not much happening over here, I would say, but there's a couple of things that you have to look out. For example, when I have my large cluster jewel, I have a lot of resistance on this jewel, so I would advise you to get yourself at least the chaos resistance and all elemental resistance, because you're going to be picking up a lot of nodes and that's going to add up quite a lot. The second thing that you have to, maybe you're going to overlook, when you're going to be creating this small cluster jewel, it's very important that you're going to get yourself the Malevolence Reduce mana, more like increased mana reservation. You can go for determination, as they have the same value, but you're gonna be losing the chaos resistance, and that for me that was very important. On top of that, I wanted to have the chaos resistance and the dexterity on my node as well. So if you're gonna be missing the dexterity, most likely it's on this jewel over here, because I have 3 dexterity on those small nodes. And actually, when I was trying to buy this jewel, exactly like this one, on the trade, people wanted 1 divine. So I decided that, you know what, I'm not going to be paying 1 divine for something that I can craft with alteration spam until I get it. It took me about 300 alteration, give or take, for getting this jewel. Another thing, I have some enduring composure. No, this is just gonna be generating you endurance charges whenever you get hit. If this is necessary, not really. It's like nice to have like a defensive thing. If you're really struggling for the points, I would drop down this this small crystal jewel for now. Flask. There is pretty much only 1 mandatory flask, or in my case 2. You need the warm flask, or otherwise you won't be able to summon your spiders. I'm using the 2 worms flask simply because I'm lazy. That's pretty much it. You can actually map, and the build can function totally on 1 flask. So you could remove 1 flask and get yourself some kind of granite flask for more armor, and then the build gonna get a little bit more defensive. Get armor if you want. But since I'm lazy, I just use 2 worms and I'm happy with that. The other flask that I'm using is like a Hallowed Life Flask with the reduced charges and corrupting blood immunity. Pretty standard life flask, one of the best. You should be using Hallowed no matter what, because this requires the less amount of charges, so in case you're gonna be like, oh my god, I'm very low, press the flask. You can do it like an instant if you want, the combinations are there, but I would say Hallowed is way to go. Then I'm using the resistance flask, not for the maximum resistance if that's what you're thinking. I'm just using them because simply they require the less charges to have them on the map all the time. And I have the prefix for the gain 3 charges when I get hit, and I have some curse reduction. And the other flask just gives me the corrupting blood and bleeding immunity, so I don't have to worry while I'm mapping for like any bleeding, corrupting bloods, none of that. So this is actually a mandatory item, because without this item you cannot actually start the build. This is the item called Arakali's Fang. If you never played with Arakali Fang, whenever you kill a monster, you have a 100% chance to summon one of those small spiders. You can have 20 of them, and they're gonna be attacking with a Viper Strike. So that's pretty much what you need to know about the Arakali Fang. And all of the stats are useless. So you just simply wanna buy the cheapest one as you can, because nothing is important on this dodger, rather just having the 100% chance to rise spiders, and that's pretty much it. And the sockets that you're gonna be, the gems that you're gonna be using in your Arakali Fang is gonna be multi-strike. You can, if you can afford it, you can use the Awaken multi-strike. Then you're gonna be using Withering Touch and Unbound Elements. Those 3 are never gonna change, and they're always gonna stay in your dodger. Those 3 are the most important links for the Arakali Fang. So moving on to your shield. This is one of your first big upgrades that you're gonna be spending a lot of currency. Let me see how much. So currently the Squire costs 24 divines. That's the cheapest that you can get as the time of recording the video. And this should be your first goal when you're gonna be upgrading the build, as this will add 3 additional links to your Arakali Fang, and you will see a significantly improved damage when you're gonna buy this shield. Obviously, when you start a budget version of the POB, that's gonna be in the description, you're gonna see this shield. This shield is quite good for until you can get yourself the Squire. as it provides the frenzy charges for your spiders, so they're gonna get a little bit more damage and you get some life. But while you're gonna be balancing your resistance, I would highly advise to not balance your resistance with this shield, because what's gonna happen when you actually find yourself enough divines to buy a squire, then you're gonna say, oh, I do not have enough resistance because I was balancing my resistance according to this shield. So I wouldn't be doing that. But once you get yourself into a squire, you're getting 3 additional links. And the links are gonna be deadly elements, it's gonna be melee physical damage, and the last one depends on the situation. While I'm mapping, I'm using melee splash damage. That's how I can explode the big packs of monster that you saw in the video at the start. But if I'm bossing, melee splash is actually useless. So I'm gonna swap it for simply minion damage. So depending on the situation, if you're bossing, you want to use the minion damage, while mapping, you want to use a melee splash damage. The helmet that I'm using on my build is Ancient Skull. Simply this helmet has a massive downside. Whenever a minion crits, it gets like a chaos degen, but since the spiders are actually immortal, this helmet does not affect the spiders, and on the other hand, it provides massive amount of damage and minions movement speed. So this is like a great low budget helmet, absolutely fantastic. And the links that you're gonna be using in your helmet is gonna be Temporal Chain, Blasphemy, and the last 2 links is gonna be pretty much up to your choice, because I tested a bunch of the things and I absolutely cannot say which one is the better. You just have to pretty much make your own choice and see what fits or feels better for you. I'm using Enduring Cry and Call to Arms. This just automates the Enduring Cry. But the other options, you could use Automation and Steel Skin, or you can use Automation and Molten Shell. So you have about 3 combinations and you can use whatever you actually want. Maybe you're not gonna like the Enduring Cry for the simply shouting all the time, because it's gonna be automated and you're gonna be in the hideout, so that might be a little bit annoying for you. So pick whatever you want. You have 3 possibilities. So for the body armor that I'm using the Brass Dome. That gives me the maximum resistance. I take no critical strike damage, and I get a lot of armor. So overall this armor is actually great. And you don't have to actually have a 6 link in this body armor, as you're gonna be only using 5 different auras. So I'm using Purity of Element, Skitterbot, Enlighten level 3. It has to be Enlighten level 3, have that in mind. Malevolence, Determination. While you're trying to squeeze all of those auras exactly like me, just remember, you need to have a Charisma anointed on your amulet, and you need this small cluster jewel over here for the Malevolence, and it has to be a 3-pointer. If you do exactly those things, you will squeeze all of the auras in your body armor. Gloves, I'm using a standard rare pair of gloves, and the main stats that I was looking for the high dexterity, for the high amount of life, chaos resistance, and anything else that you can get is pretty much just fine, right? As long as you have those 3 stats, you're gonna be good to go. And then if you buy yourself like a standard rare pair of gloves, you can just add a bit more increased minion damage, and pretty much that's it. The Wither, Inflict, Expire slower. This is absolutely a useless stat. I just have it because why not? And the links that you're gonna be using in your gloves, you're gonna be using Whirlwind Blades, faster attack. Absolutely use Whirlwind Blades. Do not go for the shield charge. Shield charge is absolutely a shit movement skill, and you should not be using as long as you can use Whirlwind Blades. They are far superior movement skill compared to shield charge. I absolutely dislike shield charge, and I don't want people to be using shield charge unless you have to. In this build, we don't have to. Whirlwind Blades are the goats, and that's why we're using it. The next skill I'm using is a Frostblink. I could get myself some quality that's gonna give me some increased maximum travel distance, but I'm like, I'm fine with with this as it is. And the last link we're gonna be using Convocation. This simply summons all of your pets, including the skitterbots, to you. Sometimes the spiders might go too far away and you need to kill some kind of monster quite close, so you just want to summon them to your location. The boosts I'm using are Corpse Walkers. They are absolutely mandatory for this build, as you're gonna be moving around and generating the corpses, and this is gonna allow you to have like a nice smooth gameplay where you're gonna be moving, creating the corpses, and the spiders gonna be killing the enemies, and the spiders gonna be just respawning themselves. So that's why those boots are very, very important, to the point they are mandatory. And the links that I'm using Flesh Offering, Cyclone, and Quest-wide Channeling. You're just gonna be pressing the Cyclone and holding it, and this is gonna be automating your Flesh Offering. And have a single socket for the Divine Ire. That's how I spawn my spiders at start of the map, because Divine Ire is way better than Cyclone. But you cannot have a 4-link, because otherwise Divine Ire is going to be channeling and it's going to be consuming the corpses for the Flesh Offering. So you just have to have a single socket for the Divine Ire. So the belt I'm using is the Darkness. I mean, it's pretty much, you can find this belt in any kind of minion build, as it just provides like a good chunk of increased effect of the socketed Abyss Jewels. And I'm using 2 Ghastly Eyes. And mainly what I was looking for is like life, accuracy, and some kind of minion damage or minion attack speed. Like I was looking for 3 stats that I can, have on my Ghastly Eye. And the other Ghastly Eyes, like again, it's life, accuracy, and attack speed. So that's the stats that I was prioritizing to keep it in my belt. Going above 85% is not necessary. You're just gonna see like very tiny, a little bit damage increase. Even if you go to 100%, you're just gonna see very little amount of damage going into the build. But the price between 85 and 100, it's like, I think 85 currently, like it's like what, 7, let's say 45C. But if we go to 100%, that's 7 divines. So in my opinion, the 100% is absolutely not worth it. The rings that I'm using, one of the rings is the Profane Proxy, and you should have this on your left socket over here, because this is just gonna make the chilling bot does not exist, and it's gonna apply a despair curse. And this ring just gives you some, resistance plus 3 to your aura. It's not necessarily too important. The most important is to have despair, and the bot just gonna be applying the despair for you. The second ring, you wanna have yourself the -3 total mana cost. It has to be free. This makes the Cyclone cost 0 mana. And then you're looking for like resistance, strength, anything that you can get, as much as you can, and you want to have an open prefix for the -7 non-channeling. This will make combination the Whirlwind Blade for free, the Cyclone free, and the rest of the skills like the automated, like Enduring Cry and other skills cost very little mana. So even if you run into no regen mana, you can still spam your Cyclone, your Whirlwind Blade, so you can still keep the movement while mapping, thanks to this ring. So I would just say craft it yourself. It's not that hard, I would say. And the amulet is pretty straightforward. It gives us a free temporal chain that I'm using on the Blasphemy. And the only stats that you're looking in this amulet is the maximum life and the mana regen. The increased damage does not affect the spiders. So as long as you get the perfect life, I would be happy with that. Then you can apply some catalyst for the extra stats, and I have a charisma on my anointment. The budget version doesn't need the charisma, otherwise you will have the vampirism. That's far more better defensive aspect. You only need the charisma once you get yourself the brass dome, and you can actually get a 5 link and you can get all of the auras. So will I upgrade the POB, or will I be doing some improvement? if I'm gonna do some kind of improvements to the POB, I'm gonna create a new POB that's gonna have something like, you know, Arakali spider improvements or something like that. You're gonna see a third POB if I'm saying if I do some improvements. But the only improvements that I can see on this build is like, you know, start corrupting the items maybe, or maybe I could pay ridiculous amount of divines for Awaken multi-strike. That probably gonna give me about 3 more mils damage. But I would say at this point the build feels very good and is quite complete, so I don't think I'm gonna be investing more into the build. I'd rather just save up the currency and move on to something different that I want to play. So probably one of the questions that's gonna show up in the chat, I can actually imagine that's gonna happen. How did I make my currency for, you know, to transition from the budget build to the Squire and other expensive stuff? And if you ever watch me any kind of league, you're not gonna be surprised. The main currency maker that I do, it's pretty much blights. Blighted map, blighted encounter. In this league, I just, on top of my blighted encounters that I do and my blighted maps, I added some more scarab nodes because I get like a lot of scarabs, like plenty of scarabs because of that. And I'm farming alvas as well, since you have a new node over here with the chests and you have flesh merchant. Sometimes I'm gonna get a couple, you know, couple chaos, couple, like, you know, other minor currency. So pretty much that's my go-to strategy: blight, alva, and scarabs. And I'm doing the blue altars because, you know, I'm trying to get that juicy divine altar. I still didn't get it, so, you know, maybe at some point. But here's like the full Atlas passive, how they look. If you got this far in the video, thank you for watching, and I will see you later in my next video.